you could see or already know, I'm in a 2014 GTR and a nice raining day in California, go figure. I felt like I brought the rain with me, although they've been getting a lot of rain past month or two. So I have this great opportunity to drive this car. I did take it through the canyon, so I think a lot of this footage will be more the canyon footage. This is where this car really shines. Anyway, let's talk about the few things I don't like. And I'll say right off the bat, I'm not going to be a crazy critique about this car like you have with like some of the other journalists have complained about, you know, how the car is too computerized, too controlled, and how I guess I feel like their argument takes away from the fun of the car. I don't feel like that's the case. I mean, there could be many variables. I mean, I've driven a decent amount of cars at this point in my life, but not like these journalists have, obviously. So with that being said, the few things that I don't care for, right off the bat, I could tell you when I was in the canyons, these paddle shifters, they don't move with the steering wheel. So, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, except when you really have the steering wheel cranked, you can't reach the paddle shifters to shift into the next gear. With that being said, my other minor complaint is the seats aren't as big guy friendly as I like them to be. They're not bad though, and if you're just not a big guy, then you'll probably be comfortable as shit. The suspension is a little tight. I mean, I have it in comfort mode, and it's still a little tough. I'm only mentioning that because I know people talk about this car being a great everyday like supercar. And I think that's a fair statement. I just think I'm really picky. So, you know, that's just me. So it has power, guys. Let me tell you. I mean, it's raining out, and I'm really able to step on this throttle and just go. The power output is really good. It's real torquey. Great mid-range power. Like, great mid-range power. I feel like it does die off a little bit on the top end, but it still pulls real strong away to red line. 0 to 60 for this car is supposed to be like 2.7 seconds. That is like ridiculous. And it pulls. It really is a fast car. You know, I want to talk about the transmission for a second. This is my first time driving a dual clutch transmission, and this is great. Now, the only thing I can compare it to, you know, as far as that I can think I compare it to, which isn't a real fair comparison at all, is my Scat Pack, which is an auto with manual mode, and it's not bad, but this dual clutch is just it's just different. It's a different league. It's just totally different. The car just shifts like when you hit that shit, especially when you're in race mode and everything, and you're going through the canyons or a racetrack or a drag strip. When you click this, it shifts. Right, I'm pretty sure quicker than I could shift. That's for damn sure. And it's a lot of fun. I love how it downshifts too. It revs match, and it's awesome. Very responsive. With that being said, my complaint though is it's a very noisy drivetrain. I don't know if they're all like this. Granted, it's the only GTR I've ever driven or even been in, so I'm assuming they're all pretty noisy. I know the first year or two they had some transmission issues, so that might be why. So as far as the interior is concerned, yeah, there's some plastic here, there. Actually, it's not that bad. But I mean, what you're paying for is you're paying for a car that I think, what show? You're paying for a car that I can't remember what show I was watching, where I think the only thing was faster than this was like a 918. I mean, this thing sets records. So I want to talk about what this car does best. What this car does best is it handles. This is, I would argue, the best handling car I've driven. The only other car I can think of is my girlfriend's WRX. And I have to say, this car to me is like a bigger, faster WRX. And I know that might be like retarded to say, but you know, my experience with cars is somewhat limited compared to some of the big time journalists out there. So I had had the privilege of taking this thing on the Holland Highway through some canyons right off the PCH. I mean, I had the chance to drive this car in its natural habitat, and it is by far one of the funnest days of my life. I was pretty respectful of the car. I definitely didn't push its limits, and what I did, and this is my recommendation for you guys, by the way, is I stayed below what I considered my ability was to drive a fast car through canyons. You know, if I think I could drive a car 8 out of 10, I drove this car 6 out of 10. And let me tell you something, I can't see many cars keeping up with me. You know, I had my 2 friends on their bikes. One was a Ducati 959, and he wasn't like, you know, trying to really grind, but he was pushing. And when I really started to really feel comfortable, I really started to push this thing through some turns, I was leaving both of them in the dust. They had no shot. A couple times, once I hit the apex, I literally floored it out of second gear, and the car just went. So I'm leaving apex out of second gear. I'm able to hit third gear on a couple of stretches, slow back down, hit a couple more turns. By the end of it, I had to pull over and wait for my friends to catch up. I mean, this thing is an animal, absolute animal in turns. And I'd really strongly recommend, if you ever have a chance to drive something like this, drive it around some twisty turns, especially some canyons if you're lucky enough to live in an area like that. The experience is like nothing I've ever experienced. It was ridiculous. You know, I actually also hit a couple of tunnels, if I may add. So like I said, I had a couple tunnels to go through. The car was a lot of fun. One of the few things I'll probably do is add, if I were to own a car like this, I'd probably add an exhaust. So I've driven cars with more horsepower, but my friend brought up a really good point about this car and how fast it feels and all that other good stuff. And it's the all-wheel drive. I've never driven an all-wheel drive car with this much power. And the way it will put you in a seat when you hit the gas is like nothing else. I mean, I usually have to be on a drag strip with drag rails to get this kind of G-force that I'm getting when I smash this gas pedal. I mean, even in the rain, it's spinning a little bit, but it's still, and I'm not full throttle, and it's still just pinning me in the seat, and we're moving. So by the time we were done our canyon run, my brakes were smelling a little bit. So I'd imagine it's to be expected. The car seemed to stop very well the whole entire time. So no complaints there. So let's talk about this car looks. I mean, this car looks fantastic. Even for its age, it is aging a little bit. I had a conversation with my friend the other night, and it is definitely aging a little bit. I think it's aging well, but I definitely think Nissan's well overdue for a new GTR. With that being said, I still get a lot. I haven't even driven this car 24 hours yet, and I've had plenty of people screaming Godzilla, nice GTR, nice that. And I'm in an area with a lot of nice cars, by the way. I'm in LA. Jesus Christ. LA, I mean, I'm already seeing Aventadors. I'm already seeing Lamborghini Gallardos and Huracans are all common around here. And Porsche 911s are like Civics. Yeah, I've seen more Porsche 911s than I've seen like Mustangs.
In about a quarter of a mile. High wind warning in about 30 miles from current location.
I want to add one other thing to my complaint list. This thing keeps telling me there's high winds. I don't care. Shut up. Alright, so along those lines, I want to talk about a little bit more about how this car is, I think, from a daily standpoint. I do think it's fair to say that this is an everyday supercar. With that being said, I'm a little bit of a bitch, and I think the seats are a little tight for me, but that's also because I'm a little more to love, if you will. So, some of my friends are more normal frame. I have a couple friends who are like 6 foot, $180. They're really comfortable in these seats. So, the seats are a little tight for me, but moving on to the suspension. Now this is where I think it's tricky. I'm in comfort mode, and I still think it's a little rough. Although I think it's extremely doable. I definitely say it rides more comfortable than my girlfriend's WRX, and she uses that as a daily. So, I'm a little bitch, I guess. But yes, I think it's extremely fair to say this is an everyday supercar. The trunk space is unbelievable, and believe it or not, I did shove a couple people in the back seat. Especially if somebody's a little shorter, they can sit in the front, move the seat up, and somebody can sit in the back. Once you get into, someone like my height or size, then no, it's definitely a two-seater. But you can easily argue, and I would argue that this is an everyday supercar, or at least a supercar performance. We don't need to get into the argument that it's not a supercar, I don't care anymore. It is a Nissan, whatever. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's an everyday supercar, everyday car, supercar performance. However you want to word it, who cares? Alright guys, so not only was I on the PCH, which is this amazing highway with all sorts of beautiful scenes, although it was a little cloudy, but it wasn't raining unlike today. I did some stereotypical things and stopped at some places you gotta stop at, like Neptune's Nest, which might be familiar with you from Fast and Furious. The only thing I was short of is having a Supra there instead of a GTR, but nonetheless, it's still pretty iconic. We also stopped at Rockstore, which is another famous place I believe Jay Leno stops by. That was really cool. That's just a place you can stop by and you're ripping through the canyons. They were actually really nice. They were actually closing, and they sat us anyway. And then they put on the Super Bowl and had like the small Super Bowl party. It was real small while they were cooking for us. So we left a badass tip though. So, but that was really nice of them. Yeah, so there's a couple of places we stopped with this car. I would highly recommend it if you are out in California and you need to own a car like this, or at least rent a car, something like this. It's just a life experience. I had a ton of fun taking this thing through the canyons. Something that I'll always remember. But I think on that note, I think I'm gonna wrap this video up. I gotta go return this car, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'm gonna go check out the Peterson Museum. Maybe I'll do another video on that. There's supposed to be an all-carbon P1. Who doesn't want to see an all-carbon P1? So on that note, I hope you guys have a good day. Take it easy. I'm out of here.
It's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, for you, for you, for you. Take it easy, man. Oh, gosh. How fast did we get up to?
I got it.
Take it easy, man.
Look at this fucking turn, Jesus. This is where this car comes alive. These kind of turns right here, you can forget about it.
What?
Look at this. Jesus. There's no way in hell they can keep up with me if I want.